That's the sound that starts every meeting of the Bartow County Rotary Club. Today we're going to give you a little bit of the history of the Rotary Club as it passes 20 years of age. The original president was Scott Parmenter. The original secretary and treasurer was Michael Howard, and all three of us were originally in the Monday Club, the Cartersville Rotary Club. Scott, why was there a need for a second Rotary Club, or why did a nucleus of us leave to start another club?
Bobby Neal was the president of the Cartersville Club at the time in 1989 to 90, and he and his board had decided that the room was not large enough to really accommodate any more members. They were close to 100 members at that time. And then also, several of their members had a hard time making the meetings on Monday. Some other day would have been better, so they decided, well, it's about time to start a new Rotary Club. So that's what they did. And that's where we come in.
There were how many members out of the Monday Club started?
12.
There were 12 original members of the Monday Club that formed a nucleus, right. But at the chartering, we had a substantial number more than that.
Oh, yes. We had 40 members to charter.
So there was a recruitment period during that time.
Yes. Yes, there was. We started the Provisional Club in, I guess, late August of 1989. And Bob Brown, who was in the Cartersville Club, was also our special representative for the district governor, who was David Roper at that time. And we also had a governor's representative, Knox Hamby, who would come by every so often. That was the precursor of what we now have as assistant governors. And so we started to meet, and Mike and I got to be pretty good friends because he was going to be the treasurer and I was going to be the president. There's a story about me being president. I hadn't done anything in the Cartersville Club, to be honest with you. I was on the board one time, but I hadn't done much. And so we had a meeting, I think at the Quality Inn for lunch one day with Bobby Neal was there, I think Mike Howard was there, I was there. Steve Yeomans may have been there, I'm not sure. And then Bob Brown was there, and we started talking about what it would be like to start a new club and how it should be. And Mike and I, we both had definite opinions about how the club should be run and what it should do. And I started opening my mouth and I said this and that, and the next thing I know, Bob Brown looks at me and says, "I think we all know who's going to be our charter president." And everybody looked and started smiling, and I said, "Oh, yeah, okay." And then I went home that night and I told Deborah, who's my wife, and she looked at me and she started laughing and said, "You're kidding. You?" And I said, yeah, I'm going to be the charter president. And we made Mike the treasurer and the secretary. He did both, so we worked very closely together. And we started getting up names. But you can do a lot of things. All you got to do is call these people up that you think would be eligible for Rotary and just bring them in. In those days, you had additional active and other additional actives and senior actives and all that stuff. We got to ignore all of that, and we just brought whoever we wanted in. So we brought our friends, and then when we got through with our friends, we started going down lists of everybody else in the community. And so we wound up with 40 people. Another thing we were trying to do was bring in women. Women were new to Rotary at that time. And so we brought in 5 women out of that first 40 that were chartered. And actually by 1991, the spring of 1991, we had 9 women in the Bartow County Club. So that's what we did to bring in new members. We had a good time doing that.
Well, Scott, I think it's important to point out your family's history in Rotary. Your father and both of your grandfathers were presidents of Rotary.
Yes, they were. Guy Parmenter was president, I believe, in 1933-34. And I think he used to lead the singing in the Cartersville Rotary Club, I heard. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. And then my father was president, I believe, in the Carswell Club in 1950-51. I think my other grandfather, Leon Scott, was president 1955-56, I think.
Well, let me get to Michael for a moment. Michael, you've got quite a history in Rotary also in your family.
Yeah, my grandfather was president of Rotary back in the late 40s, and then my father, Horace Howard, was president, I believe it was in the mid-50s or so.
Well, he had quite a record for perfect attendance.
Yeah, it was over 50 years that he had perfect attendance.
And how many years did you serve consecutively as secretary-treasurer, which is really one of the hard-working jobs?
Well, I was there, it started in, what, 89, and I was there through 2004, so I was there about 15 years. Yeah, I had previously been president of the Carswell Club too, back in, I believe, 85, 86.
One of the things that you did, I don't know what the motivation was, but you made sure to conserve any extra dollars we had for future use, and it really came in handy for one of the great accomplishments of the Bartow County.
Yeah, well, Harvey Howell was I was secretary-treasurer for about 2 or 3 years, and then Harvey Howell, he began being a secretary, so we would just scrounge around, and whatever money was left over, you know, from clubs. Eventually, I started a couple of CDs, and we ended up about $12,000 over the years.
When we started the Rotary Club, that was one of the things we had to come up with. Besides being a singing club, I have to throw that in. We were a singing club as long as I was president. I was president for that charter year and the next year, and again in 1993-94. So we sang during my years. Of course, that ended right when I left office.
Mercifully.
Yes, but anyway. We came up the first year with the Jobs Fair. We had Bob Bentley in the Rotary Club at that time. In fact, he was with us for a long time, and he thought up the Jobs Fair. So we had one, and the first chairs of that were Bob Bentley and Jane Dysart. And we had it in March of 1991. We had it at the Civic Center. And it was pretty successful. I don't know that it raised a whole lot of money, but it did a lot of awareness for our Rotary Club.
It helped people get jobs.
Yes, it did. And we also had students there too, so they could talk to different recruiters and see what the job market was like when they got out of school. So we had that job fair for 3 years. And then in 1990, well, we had it. Yeah, 3 years, and then in 1992, we decided we weren't making enough money out of it, so we stopped it.
Well, you turned to other projects, though.
Yeah, yes, we did. We did different things, from raffles. We did a lot of those, but we also inherited your golf tournament. Herschel always had a celebrity
charity golf tournament.
And it was dedicated to a lady that used to work for you, if I remember right.
It was a secretary and office manager at WBHF for 38 years who tragically passed away, and we wanted to do something to commemorate her services not only to our business but to this community. So we decided to have a charity golf tournament. And it started small, but it grew into a substantial moneymaker with the proceeds going to the Etowah Foundation. And in later years, when I no longer had the facilities of Channel 4 and WBHF to promote the golf tournament, the Bartow Rotary Club decided to take it over, and they did all the work, and it was a successful fundraiser for several years. Mm-hmm. But Mike, there was some the Sunshine Committee, or Friendship Time as we call it,
yeah.
And describe that and what a good way it has been to raise funds for our Rotary.
Yeah, that was started probably in the early 90s.
I think so.
Early in the club. Yeah.
Yeah, and Keith Willard was one of our charter members, and he headed that up. And then later Chester Taylor and Randy Thompson and their
Steve Yeomans.
Steve Yeomans. Well, and during my time when I was secretary or treasurer, we raised about $75,000 over the years from '89 till 2004. So we raised a considerable amount of money, and that basically went to just the local charities. And a lot of times, you know, we'd had programs, and we'd give it out, dole it out, and usually $100 allotments. And then a lot of times we'd have a program from
So for a non-profit that was doing good work in the community.
We would donate money to that. So it's been good over the years.
But Scott, you want to describe what friendship time is?
Friendship time is something that lasts about 10 or 15 minutes sometimes. In our club, I've been to a lot of Rotary clubs as district governor and foundation work, but I don't think anybody has a friendship time quite like we do. We talk about what's happening within our lives. People stand up and they pay so much. It's usually more than $1. It's usually $5, $10 and on up, and they talk about what their children have done and they've done. They even promote their businesses sometimes, and we have a good time doing that. And you get to notice some of the members a little bit better than you would if you didn't have that friendship time. But we usually raise about anywhere from $150 to $250 every week doing that.
And some weeks it goes substantially over that amount.
Yes, it does.
And people who give $20 to brag on the fact that their child made an honors program in college, or that they have a new grandchild coming, or that one of their children is engaged or getting married, any happy occasion, and any significant thing in your business.
Alabama wins the football game.
That if they win the national championship, I'll be generous.
Yeah.
And I'm sure y'all will do if Georgia goes to a good bowl game.
And Georgia Tech.
And Georgia Tech.
That's right.
And as a matter of fact, some members have been generous enough that if they have a birthday, they put in $1 for each year. I'm far too old for that.
Right.
But the club's friendship time raises probably $7,000 or $8,000 per year for charity.
It does.
And I think one of the other things that we've done, some months ago, the foundation, the community foundation,
Right.
had some matching funds for nonprofits to establish endowments. And tell us about how we took advantage of that, Michael.
Well, I think that started
4 years ago.
Yeah, well,
5 years ago.
we started out doing the Community Foundation of Greater Atlanta, I think, back in 2000. Some of that money that we had squirreled away, I think about $11,000.
Right. I think that's
We put into that, and that kept going. I think Bill Strickland had something to do with getting some of that started, and we did that till about 2004. And then I think we shifted that money over. Randy Thompson had some dealings with we started the Bartow County Community Foundation back in 2004. And by the time I got out of it, I think we had about $42,000 in it. We had put some money in it, and at that time they had matching funds, I think. So we.
And at this time, that endowment has in excess of $100,000.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, I had kept up with it.
And since it is an endowment, it is not spent directly, but the earnings off of that gives us an additional $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a year in addition to friendship time and our other fundraisers to contribute to local charities.
That's right.
Michael, and you've been a Rotarian for several decades now, in both the original Cartersville Club membership and the last 20 years with the Bartow County Rotary. What are some of the things that give you pride that you belong to an organization like this?
Well, I think our club is, well, Well, it's more active in the community than a lot of clubs. Rotary itself is very active internationally, and of course we do give a lot of money to the international funds, and they've gone through
the polio
and money to
Matching
community.
grants.
clean water for underdeveloped countries.
All kinds of matching grants.
But one thing I like about our club is we're very locally minded, and we've given away a lot of money to local charities, and I think that makes a difference with us.
Scott, what's your view of our Rotary Club and what sets it apart from some others?
Well, I'll tell you. We have a fairly young club. A lot of clubs that I go around and visit in my talks on the Rotary Foundation, because I'm district foundation chair, and they're not as young as we are. Some are, but we have a lot of younger people in their 30s, some even in their 20s, all the way up to Herschel and me.
Thank
and
you,
Mike. And but I'm real pleased with that mix. We have a lot of women in our club. We have a good mix of men and women from all professions, just about, and I'm pleased with that. Also, I'm actually pleased with where we meet, because we used to meet at Quality Inn, and there are no windows there, and it gets kind of dark. And in fact, we only had half the room when we first got started, and somehow or another we bumped the Exchange Club out of the other half into the bar, and we got the whole room. But in '94, we took a vote and decided to go to the Cartersville Country Club. We thought that might help attendance and help the Cartersville Club's attendance too, by having us meet in two completely different places. And I can remember when we got out to the Cartersville Country Club, Denise Webb, who's now at Barnsley Garden, she's a little fairy godmother, but back then I believe she was the dining room man at the Cartersville Country Club. She said, "Can y'all fill this place up? You gonna have enough people?" I said, "I think so." So over the years, we had part of the dining room, and now we got the whole thing. But just the versatility of our club and the people who are in it. The Rotary Foundation does a lot of things. We have group study exchanges where we send a team to another country in a Rotary district, and then they send one back to us. And that brings up another thing. Back in 1992, we had a Rotary exchange within this district from the Rotary Club of Moscow. Normally, Rotary an exchange is between districts, but there was only one club in Russia at that time, and that was the Moscow Rotary Club. And they sent an exchange over here, and we got to host that exchange. Buck Lindsay was the district governor then, and for some reason someone quit as governor's rep, and he made me governor's rep, and for the specific reason of kind of hosting this thing for a few days in this area and setting everything up. So we did, and we had a team of Russian doctors here, and boy, that was fun. One of them played the piano, so I kept him. He came to our house, and he was a really highly regarded doctor. And then another one was a former KGB guy, because see, Russia became Russia, I believe, in 1991. The official dissolution of the Soviet Union was in 1991, even though the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, I think. So this was a real coup. But anyway, all the other team members were kind of suspicious of him because he'd been KGB. But I understand he went up and he got to ride a truck one day up there at Richard Wynn. And they let him drive a truck, and he went wild with that truck. And I don't know the whole story, but anyway, it had to be hilarious. But that was a great time with that group study exchange, and it was very significant.
What about some of the charitable things, the extinction of polio virtually?
Polio has been one of our major projects. Well, it has been our biggest project since at least 1985. It actually goes back a little bit before that, but in 1985 at the International Convention, I believe that made it official. But anyway, we've been trying with other people around the world, the CDC, different ones of the UN, within the United Nations to eradicate it, and now it's just within 4 countries. They've only had, I think, so far this year about 12 or 1,300 cases so far. So we're trying to get rid of polio, and members of the Rotary clubs around the world have given about $700 or $800 million, and we have 2 polio campaigns going right now with a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We're matching millions that they've given. One $100 million that they've given, and another $255 million, and we're matching that with a million and another $100 million. And so we're working on that. So that's a big program. We also have ambassadorial scholars. We have the largest private scholarship program in the world. It started in 1947, and there have been over 40,000, I think, scholars so far doing that. And those scholarships are worth $24,000 a year. And so that's a very big program. And then even a bigger program is our matching grant program, where we do different projects around the world, and clubs raise money for that, and then the district and also the Rotary Foundation match those dollars, and then it goes overseas to do matching grants, and it goes to a Rotary club. So all that money is used. It's not given to any government and misused. There are severe record-keeping requirements for that thing. And then we also have district simplified grants. I want to mention that just because with district simplified grants you can get money to do projects within your own community. So not all of the Rotary Foundation money goes overseas. Some of it comes back into this community. And there are a few other things that it does, but it's a very big thing. I think last year, 2008, 2009, over $120 million was raised for that program. They also have an endowment that's got, with expectancies in there, probably close to $600 million, and the plan is by 2025 or before to have $1 billion in that endowment. So it's a really big program. And I want to say one other thing. As far as Rotary Foundation giving, which is very important in our district as well as most other districts, and we started out by not giving that much to the Rotary Foundation. That was probably my fault in the times I was president of that club. But for the last few years, we have become a $100 per capita club, where we average giving at least $100 a member to the Rotary Foundation. I think that's very important because that's one of the finest programs of its kind, I think, in the world. I think it may be the largest private program like that.
One of the joys of the Bartow County Club is our ability to attract interesting programs, and they cover national affairs, local affairs. We have academics, we have sports figures, we have media personalities, we have government officials that speak to our club. And it is not only educational for our members to hear from all of these people, but it attracts, because they are interesting, we have good attendance at our club. We have outstanding attendance. Percentage-wise, our members come on a regular basis. Some of the people we had John Brandenburg, General John Brandenburg, retired, who is commander of the 101st Airborne Division, and also is a highly decorated war hero. We had Eric, I've got my name, Eric Haney, who was one of the first members of Delta Force, a forerunner of what are now special forces in the armed services. He wrote a book about his experiences called Delta Force, which was made into a CBS television series that is currently playing called The Unit. We've had well-known authors, Frederick Allen, who wrote The History of Coca-Cola in Rising Atlanta. We've had many TV and newspaper media executives who have come and columnists who have spoken to our business executives. The president of Atlantic Steel was one of our guests. Of course, we've had every one of our representatives of our congressional district has appeared, most of them multiple times, in front of our club, along with Senators Isaacs and Saxby. They have also been here. We've had governors have appeared at our Rotary Club. So we stay...
Chancellor has been here. The Chancellor.
We've had two chancellors of the university system.
That's the most important part. We have had many sports programs. Anybody in sports around here that you can think of, from coaches like Vince Dooley, or people from Georgia Tech or Georgia or anywhere else, we've had them. One of our former members said, we always have sports programs. And so Herschel would shoot back, well, you'll get your cultural program eventually. So we'd have 1 or 2 cultural programs a year to offset the sports programs. But see, he didn't mention that. But we love our sports programs, and we don't get as many of them now as when he was the chair.
Well, nobody ever asked me to get one, but at any rate, we have the programs, the Rotary programs, keep the membership interested in it. It increases the attendance, and increasing the attendance when we get friendship time, it increases the dollars, and it contributes. One of the things that I take most pride in being a member of the Bartow Rotary Club, is its involvement in charitable activities here. I don't think there is any nonprofit that has not benefited at one time or another. On a regular basis, virtually all of the nonprofits in this community are invited to appear before our Rotary Club, and we respond with a contribution and to help spread the word. And in many cases, our members represent those organizations. All of us have our own favorite charities, and we try to get our club to support those. Another program that I was particularly interested in, and it's been very successful, we've been doing for 4 years now, is packages for local servicemen who are serving in combat zones. Anyone who has a son, a nephew, or knows of a local citizen of Bartow County who served in Iraq or serving in Afghanistan, if you'll notify Bartow Rotary Club, we'll see that that young man gets a package from home. Young man or women, because we have sent several to service women that were serving overseas. That's another one of the Rotary programs. But Rotary was founded as primarily a business networking thing, but it also has a challenge to do good in the communities where it is located, and I'm proud that I think ours is in the leadership among Rotary clubs, certainly in this area. Right. I'll turn it back over to you, Scott.
Well, there's a couple of more things I'd like to mention that we really haven't touched on. One is the Georgia Rotary Student Program, which we've been heavily involved. I believe our first student that we actually supported went to Berry, and it was Hannah Paredes. I believe that's the way it was pronounced.
International students coming from.
Yeah, but it's not an exchange program. They just come and study with our colleges and universities for 1 year, and then they go back. And I think our second student was Birgit Meyer from Germany. And we've had a student every year. Sometimes we have sponsored those students by ourselves. Other times, like now, we've sponsored it with another club. I believe we're sponsoring it with the Etowah Club and the Bartow County Club. But that's a very important program, and it really kind of spices up our life a little bit when they come to talk to us and meet with us. Another thing we really haven't touched on is our charter banquet. Our charter banquet took place on February 9th, 1990. We were actually chartered on November the 3rd. You might wonder why it took so long to have a charter banquet, because most clubs do it right after they're chartered, but I think we did that because November was the month we chartered, and you had Thanksgiving, and then the next month was Christmas, and then January, you get into January, so we decided on February the 9th. We had it at the Cartersville Civic Center, and we had a pretty good evening. We had a lot of the members there, and we had our district governor there. We had the next district governor that was coming in, Jim Kent. He was also there. Warren Kennedy was there playing the music. Bob Brown was there, of course, and Knox Hamby, our governor's rep. But we had a really great time at that, and so I think we did a good job chartering that club and having the banquet. We got the bell that night. I think we were using the Cartersville bell before that, and that's our bell. And then we got a lot of other little things. I think we may have gotten our four-way test banner that night and a lot of other things. But we had a great time. We had several clubs help sponsor us, and they all weren't in this district. Some of them were in another district. So do you have anything to add about the charter banquet? Okay.
I think what we'll list on the screen all of the charter members that were there, about 40, I believe. And before we close out this history, I think it would be appropriate that we remember a number of people who made significant contributions to our club who are no longer with us, have passed away. I think of Reverend Stan Wilkins, who was pastor of the First Baptist Church when he tragically died in an accident. Chester Taylor, who was one of our charter members for a number of years and served actively until his death in 1998. And
played golf with you, Chester Taylor. We had Bob Cordell, and Bob Cordell actually had a part with bringing this club to the Cartersville Country Club. I was on the board with him, the Cartersville Country Club board, and they were actively looking for a weekly club to come out there. So we decided we would do it, and he was I think one of the ones that had a large hand in that. Curtis Ingram is another that died. He died in 1995. I actually forget when Bob Cordell actually died, but Curtis was Harvey Howell's employer at that time. And a funny thing about that, when we were first finding members for our club, we wanted Harvey Howell in the club, and at that time they were a lot stricter about what you had to do for a living.
What are the rules?
You
have to be a professional or a management level employee.
Yeah, so I went in there and I saw Curtis. I play golf with Curtis a lot. And I said, Curtis, we'd like Harvey Howell in our club, and but he doesn't. He's just working for you, and he doesn't have any specific corporate title or anything like that. Curtis looked at me and said, he's my vice president now. So I told Harvey, see, all we had to do was come in and ask, and now you're vice president. He finally took over the accounting firm. That's Harvey Howell CPA. And then later on, we brought in Curtis Ingram, and he loved Rotary, and he stayed there until, unfortunately, he died. And then also we had Jackie Beavers.
Jackie Beavers, I was instrumental in getting Jackie in. In addition to being a reverend, he was active in many charitable events, and he had quite a bit of a fame because back in the early 1980s, he was a Motown artist in Detroit and had some major accomplishments in the music field. And in this community, he was instrumental in raising funds for a number of worthy charities, primarily his Glory Scholarship Fund, in which he contributed almost $500,000. He raised for scholarships for local students.
He also had a prison ministry, too.
He had a prison ministry, and he served as one of the special assistants to Tom Murphy, who was for 48 years Speaker of the House of the state legislature and arguably the most powerful politician in the state of Georgia. Most powerful, let's put it, public servant. To be more kind and really more realistic. During the course of 20 years, there have been a number of honors and awards that have been accorded to the Bartow County Rotary Club. And Scott can list some of those, and we'll show some of those on screen.
Sure. One of the things that we've done as far as awards, I guess, that we've gotten, quite a few of us are Paul Harris Fellows, and that's where you give at least $1,000 to the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation. We have a lot of Paul Harris Fellows and multiple Paul Harris Fellows. We actually have one major donor, which has left at least $10,000, and several of us that are not that far away from being major donors. We also have currently 14 benefactors where you leave $1,000 to the permanent fund of the Rotary Foundation. We've had a few more in the past, and we're working on getting that up. We also have several Bequest Society members where you leave at least $10,000 to the permanent fund of the Rotary Foundation. I am a Bequest Society member. And so we have that with the Rotary Foundation. Over there, we have certain framed items. One of the framed items is our charter, which shows when we were chartered on November 3rd, 1989, and that was presented to us by the district governor at our charter banquet. We also have another plaque presented to us by, I believe, Knox Hamby, our governor's rep, which shows the different clubs that gave us stuff to start our club, such as the Bell, and there's 6 clubs on there. And then another one is my plaque that I received at district conference for being district governor. In this community, we have had 3 district governors, 2 in the Cartersville Club. We had Alphabet Collins in 1952-53, and then in 1970-71 we had Warren Aiken. Morgan Aiken, who is a member of our club, used to drive his dad around to all these meetings he had to go to. And then there's myself, Scott Parmeter, who was district governor in 2002-2003, but I wasn't out of the Cartersville Club, I was out of the Bartow County Club, so that's the only one we've had so far, as well as other people that I've already mentioned that have done time in the district doing valuable work. The other thing I have here is the hospitality suite poster. As I said, quite a few of our members went to my district conference, and we had a hospitality suite. A lot of clubs have hospitality suites. That's where things go on very informally after the official program is over, late into the night, and Denise Archer did that for us. Her husband, Russell Archer, is in our club. And I thought it was so colorful, I just decided to get it framed. And I kind of like it. It shows Deborah and me there, and I'm the center of attention. And it also shows the Cartersville Rotary Club and the Bartow Rotary Club on it because they both sponsored that suite. And that was another thing I was very pleased with. Some people from the Etowah Club, and the Etowah Club was brand new then, and also the Cartersville Club and the Bartow County Club really supported me. In fact, when I marched in it was at the previous district conference. When you become district governor, your club marches in front of you along with assistant governors and other people when you walk to the podium to give your address to say you're glad to be becoming district governor. But see, since I was in the Cartersville Club and the Bartow County Club, I let all 3 clubs, including the Etowah Club, walk in front of me. And so I thought that was a really nice thing, and they did.
And I think it would be appropriate at this time for us to thank all of the people, in addition to Scott, who have served as president of the Bartow County Rotary Club and we'll scroll all of those names down the screen.
Right, and we have a plaque that we have just updated that shows every president of that club. So, so we do have that plaque, and we've had, what, 20 or 20, well, a lot of people have been president, just put it that way. And then I also want to recognize our original board in 1989. We had myself as president, Michael Howard as secretary-treasurer. Don Randolph was the president-elect. In 1991-92, we decided all this right here at this table. And then we also had Cliff Cuff as club service, Michael Howard as vocational service, Jane Dysart as community service, and Bob Bentley as international service. And so that was the original board.
So any final comments from you, Michael?
I think y'all covered it.
I think the club has been a success, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we did pretty good, didn't we, getting this thing started?
Regardless of
well, for anyone who is interested in service above self and giving back to the community and paying rent on the air that they breathe in our great nation and our great community, you would find a warm welcome by becoming a member of the Bartow County Rotary Club.
I agree.